So John, what is the number one tip you would give an aspiring smallmouth bass fisherman?
Well, the first and most important thing is to pick a good time of year, and mid-June in this area would be your best bet. There are a ton of other tips that we could talk about, and I'm sure as we fish together, we'll come across some of those, but starting with fishing soft plastics, light, fishing slow. Slow. You gotta slow it down, and you can't really emphasize that enough.
That's interesting. So slow is pro. So making the cast, do you let the finesse bait settle on the bottom and then you just kind of roll it over the structure, so whether it's a rock or whether it's a log or whatever?
Well, yes, that's one excellent way to do it. It depends on the rock shelves. Sometimes we're going to fish a little bit deeper, 5 or 6 feet deep, and so there's a window where you need to let it sink a bit more, and then we use the rod tip, raise the rod tip to drag it back, and it sort of swings back. You pick up the slack, raise the rod tip again, and you kind of work the bait back to you with the rod tip, almost crawling it along the bottom.
Interesting. So there's virtually no rod tip action with jigging the finesse bait?
Not so much, just mostly letting the bait crawl along. And if you think about insects and creatures in the water, they don't move fast. Crawfish crawl along the bottom pretty slow. So, you know, we've been trying to think that, wow, look at this action on this lure, and it's actually the absence of action that's making these fish, triggering these fish to bite.
How interesting. Yeah, so the absence of action, you as a guide expressing that to a client would make a lot of sense. The absence of action.
Right. Fishing slow and light. Light keeps you from getting snagged, and just taking it easy, just let it crawl along.
So when you talk about light, what's the pound test we're using?
Well, I like 6-pound test, and I like a 3/32 ounce jig. That's my go-to, but you know, a little deeper, or if you've got plenty of weight, then you would have you know, an 1/8 ounce jig. If you've got a fat tube, I like to have a little more weight because it's got buoyancy. So to summarize, I'd like to see you come here at the right time of year, fish soft plastic on a light jig head slowly. Learn how to finesse fish. And like you said, bro, slow is pro.
That's great.